Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone from wherever you're joining in the world. Thanks for joining our first Ask Microsoft Anything for Windows in the Cloud as we reboot the series in August. I am so excited to be joined by my fellow guests today. We'll dive into it a lot more, but Hillary and Joydeep, we're going to talk all about the Windows app today. Before we get into any more of the announcements, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? I think you both have been here before, so you could say a little nice to see you again for the crowd. Hillary, you want to go first?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Christian. Thanks for having me back. I'm Hillary Braun. I'm a senior PM on the Windows and Windows Cloud team at Microsoft, and I own Windows app on Windows. So all of the iterations of Windows clients are under my ownership. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Hillary. I'm Joydeep. I've met you guys before. I lead all our client-side experiences. So all the in-market clients as well as this great Windows app journey. But my job necessarily is to represent the awesome work that Hillary and others on my team are doing. That's my actual job.
Thanks, Joydeep. Yeah, we can definitely get into it when we talk all about the Windows app and all the platforms it's on. But folks, as you're listening here, and as we go through the initial questions, we want to keep answering things that are relevant to you. So please do not hesitate. Ask questions, post comments, whichever platform you're listening in on. And as for myself, I'm Christian Montoya. You see me most months here. I'm a PM manager on a lot of the Windows client integrations with the Windows 365 switch, Windows 365 boot features, and also all of the unified communications and media offloading with Teams optimizations and the multimedia redirections, or MMR. Cool. So yeah, again, before we jump straight into Windows app, it has been a while since we've all met here. I think our last Ask Microsoft Anything was back in May. So we had a busy summer. I won't be super exhaustive with the updates because we do have awesome docs pages where you can catch up as well. And you can pull that up on the side. But I did want to highlight a couple of the more recent ones. So for Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365, actually, we've installed and pre-installed the new Teams experience in the gallery images. That way you can start using that, which is very, very slick, and it has new Teams architecture. So you'll see those in the new gallery images. Also, for both Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365, you can now configure the lock screen behavior when you're using the Entra ID single sign-on authentication for login. Previously, it would automatically disconnect your session, but you can actually configure that if you and your employees are used to seeing and interacting with the VM lock screen. And then a couple of things for Windows 365 specifically. One of them is in the new gallery images as well, additional security and locking down of inbound ports, including the TCP/3389 to prevent lateral movement. For our partnerships for Windows 365, our partnership with Omnissa for Horizon clients just went GA. So if you're interested, if you're weighing on that to go GA before you try it out, now's your chance. And then lastly, our GPU offerings went GA, which is super exciting. Please work with your account managers to look up those SKUs. I believe there's 3 of them, and see if that fits for your environment. So for Windows 365, for everything else that's new, check out ak.ms/w365. What's new? All right, man. So many months, so many new things going on, but we want to focus today on Windows app. Joydeep, I think a blog went out earlier this month, and also you spoke on the Windows in the Cloud today too. I believe the ak.ms/windows app-june. Was that the blog?
I think that's the blog.
It's the blog, but
Wow.
yeah.
Tell me about it.
All right. Mm, how about I tell you the Windows App story? Right. The blog is just
That's
the summary of the story. All right. So, as all our listeners would know, RDP clients have been around for a lot of time, since the beginning of RDP use cases. Over time, we have gone from on-prem RDS to RDS streaming apps, and the latest cloud innovations, including Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, Microsoft DevBox, RPA Box, and many more are just waiting in the wings, right? Given all that, there was a proliferation of clients in the that we put out as part of Windows, say in Inbox as MSTSC and other clients, right? So we had, I think the count was 16 clients in market, and all of them were different in their own special way. And as we were going on this cloud journey, we were realizing that, hey, it makes sense to kind of combine all our end user experiences. Because if you think about it, the client experience is kind of the face page of our end user experience. This is how the end user really interacts with Windows Cloud Services. So all this was going on. And in parallel, we also heard from our customers that there are more and more use cases that are non-traditional VDI that people want to try out with Windows 365 and AVD, et cetera, et cetera. So we had the customer side push also to figure out a way to make the VDI end user experience more accessible, feeling more like local, if I may use that term, right? So, so for all these purposes, Windows app is our answer. So it's a story of unification, and like I said in the Windows in the cloud talk there, it's also a story of simplification. So what does that mean on the ground? Windows app, as you know, is public preview today. We are going GA soon. Otherwise, we would not have the fine attention that we are getting. Soon is, as you can interpret, we are at the time of the year when announcements start happening. So make your guesses. You're probably going to be right. And and so the blog really talks about how to get started with piloting Windows app, what to expect for migration, what is new and why you should consider switching to the Windows app and all that great stuff. That said, we have already had a huge number of connection hours on the public preview clients, got lots of feedback, hundreds of thousands of monthly active users, hundreds of enterprise companies putting the Windows app into production pilots even. So it's been great so far. This is one more reminder to folks, the blog is, that, hey, it's coming soon, and here's what to expect.
And for my own, or for the folks on the listening now that aren't aware of the Windows app, can you remind us which platforms the Windows app is available for preview right now?
Sure. So in public preview today, we have Windows app on Windows, web, iOS, Mac OS, iPad OS. That's what we have in public preview right now. At the time that we GA the Windows app on these platforms, we are also going to be public previewing our Windows app on Android.
Perfect. So that'll be when I start using it more because I love my little Android tablet. All right, cool. We have one question come in, which is actually very related to what I wanted to ask anyways. Hillary, I think this is for you. Will the Azure Virtual Desktop app in the Windows Store ever get out of preview, or should we tell our clients to just use the Windows app?
Please, please, please just use the Windows app. The Azure Virtual Desktop app in the store has been in preview for just over a year now. And as Joydeep said, the movement behind Windows app is really consolidation, simplification, and unification of all of those Windows clients. So with that said, moving forward, Windows app will be the primary client to connect to remote resources like AVD and Windows 365. So please get your customers moving over to Windows app as soon as possible. They're both in preview, so hopefully it won't be a tough transition. And as Jaideep also said, Windows app is coming into GA soon. So if that is a barrier at all for your customers, we'll have that in GA pretty soon here.
And related to that, Hillary, can you tell me how uh, the new Windows app, how that works with the existing Windows 365 app? Like, are those users? Is it the same app? How should folks think about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way we decided to roll it out was kind of in the same app package, right? So Windows 365 is on one side of a toggle and Windows app is on the other. When Windows app does go GA, the Windows 365 side will go away. So it will be an update in place to the brand new Windows app, which is a great thing because we have new features and you can connect to your AVD resources in Windows app as well. So just if you're using the Windows 365 app still, go ahead and try out that toggle and test out Windows app in preview and get ready for the update in place coming at GA.
Okay, awesome. And also related to that, I wanted to actually bring in uh, our PM expert on iOS and Mac OS. Hey, John, how you doing?
Good morning.
Hey, so same question for you too. Is how should customers think about how does the Windows app, how does that interface with the existing apps that are in the store for iOS and Mac OS? Is it going to be a brand new deployment for them? Is it going to be seamless? How will that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we are deploying the Windows app as an update to the remote desktop client. So in an upcoming version of the remote desktop client, the name in the store entry will change to Windows app, and you will see a great new update with the new interface that you'll see on other platforms, and you will also have some functional improvements. And so, from a customer standpoint, they should be aware that the name of the app will change, but we've made sure that there's complete business continuity with this update. So they will not need to add resources. They won't need to reconfigure anything. We will just make sure that we provide documentation so they understand how some things may be shifted around with the interface.
Perfect. And then for you know, the seamless transition and the preservation of resources, um, how do you know how that will work if folks have like two different identities they used to download the apps and feeds? Um, if they use it for like their regular corporate tenant and then they used it for if a contracting company gave them another feed. Do you know? Oh, I
Yeah.
apologize. I think I cut out.
Oh, no, no worries
um,
at all. It's
but John, yeah, sorry. Do you know how that'll work if there's multiple feeds?
Yes, yes. So, what's great about some of that new functionality we're adding into the client is that they can have multiple AAD accounts logged in at the same time, and they can switch between them easily with an account selector. So, hopefully, Christian, it will be an even better experience for them after they update to the Windows app.
And Christian, can I add something there? This is one of the main things that we are doing in terms of reducing the friction to get in and see your feeds. So there is no longer the model of subscribing to a particular feed. This is more in line with what you see in Microsoft 365 apps. So the specific comments that John made are true for Apple clients as well as all the other clients. On the top right-hand corner, just like in, say, Word or PowerPoint, you have the identity that you're logged in with. And that identity tells us a lot about you, what your feeds are, and we populate everything based on that. And yes, if you're logged in with more than one Azure AD account, just you need to go and just choose the one that you're active with. And voila, the feeds kind of just show up.
Perfect. That's awesome. Great to hear. Um, let's see. Oh, okay. So this is a question from Mark. Is there a way to start the session in a window instead of full desktop for admins? We want to reproduce an issue, but don't want to have it full screen.
Yeah, so I can take that. And Mark, I think I saw this question on the IT Pro blog as well that was mentioned earlier at this in this session. So there is a way to do that. You click on the ellipses menu next to your resource that opens display settings. You turn off display settings, set it to single display, and then toggle off start and full screen. And if you go back to the IT Pro blog, I've dropped screenshots and step-by-step directions in there for you as well. So if you didn't quite follow that, just go back to the blog and check it out. And there are directions on how to change it to start in windowed mode when you open your session.
And Hillary, is that same functionality on all the clients? Do we know? Or is it
Yeah, so
mostly the
there are
desktop
some.
factors?
Yeah, so that's primarily for Windows. There are some variations in what we support across different clients. Web has some, I think, Joydeep, do you know exactly what web supports for multiple displays? So I think web is
Yeah.
still just, yeah.
Yeah. So for web, as you all know, multi-monitor is not a supported use case today, but we are making active investments in that. And in this category of investments, web does lag today, but we are trying very fast to catch up.
And in that vein, John, does mostly because I don't remember, so we go for the audience. Does iOS and the app on iOS support Sidecar?
Yes, it does. So when you open the remote desktop client, now to be the Windows app, on your MacBook, you can extend it to your iPad with Sidecar.
Sweet, good to know because I also was just curious.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome feature. I use it often.
All right, nice. Another question is coming in from Florian. We've noticed in a large AVD remote app environment that the startup time for a remote app is significantly longer when using the Windows app compared to the existing remote desktop app. Is this a known issue, and will it be resolved before the Windows app goes GA?
Awesome. Thanks, Christian. Yeah, we have heard this feedback and we've seen it. It is something that we are definitely looking into and trying to improve the speed and reliability of connecting to remote apps through Windows app. I don't have an answer of whether or not it'll be fixed before GA because it's something that we are still investigating, but we are trying to improve that experience.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Hillary. All right. Yeah, and folks, remember, please ask as many questions you want. We have the experts here. My experts / my awesome colleagues. So yes, please do ask questions, and we want to get to them. Another question from Tech Community from Vadim. Does the application generate any logs or events available in Event Viewer for troubleshooting purposes?
And I'm guessing this is Windows as well. So I'll take
Probably.
this one. Yeah. So yeah, we do generate logs, but we don't generate any events in Event Viewer. So there is a log directory that you can access, and there are logs there. But again, no events in Event Viewer for troubleshooting purposes.
All right. Yeah, I assume it's Windows. I feel like a lot of our audience is really familiar with the Windows user base here. Okay. So folks, yeah, please keep those questions coming. One question I have is and maybe this is both for you, John and Hillary, in terms of the feature parity. Are there still use cases, maybe on Windows? We'll start on Windows. Are there still use cases where customers should continue using the downloadable client, the downloadable Microsoft Remote Desktop client, like from our Docs pages, instead of the Windows app when it goes GA? Or do we have that full functionality, full parity there?
Yeah, so we're not quite at full parity with the remote desktop client for Windows, that downloadable version that's in market today, but we are getting there quickly. And what we did early on with Windows app was talk to a lot of our customers and users and prioritize which features were most important to get in before GA. So we've been working hard to get those features complete and in to close some of those gaps between Windows app and remote desktop client for Windows. A notable case where someone might want to continue using remote desktop client would be if they use private link. So that's something that we don't quite support in Windows app for Azure Virtual Desktop yet. And that's one that we will be working on bringing in as soon as possible. But that's a big one that might be a blocker for some enterprise customers in using Windows app. Aside from that, though, we've got a lot of other really great features like refresh in the UI, and we're adding some new features that weren't even present in remote desktop client for Windows, like the difference between list view and tile view. So you can consolidate the view of your remote resources or have them as bigger tiles. And then also some great filtering and sorting options are coming soon as well.
Awesome. Yeah. And also the pin to home. I use that a lot because
Yeah.
I don't want to keep opening up the folders of the regular one just to find it, because you can't really rearrange it either. So it's just so convenient to have it all in one spot and just launch it.
Yeah, that's a great one if you use tons of like different resources. I love that too.
Christian, one thing to add to Hillary's comments there about feature parity is our broader view of how we are thinking about migration to the Windows app. Now, when the Windows app goes GA, we will not be discontinuing any of the in-market applications. And this was a very pointed decision we took so that we do not jar the end users or the IT admins. As we get to parity, we will produce more information on how to do the migration smoothly. For now, I would imagine that for 85% of enterprise use cases, Windows app will be ready to rock in a production environment at GA. We absolutely understand that there is the 15-20% left to go, and we will be absolutely responsible and smooth in the transition into Windows app.
Got it. Let me actually ask a very elementary question. On Windows, can the Windows app run side by side with the Microsoft Remote Desktop client for users to start testing out the new one?
Yeah, you can absolutely download both and test. So if you're in a situation where you are that 15 or 20%, but you want to run a pilot or POC with Windows app, you can absolutely download it on any machine where you also have remote desktop client and test it out and see if it works for your use case and situation.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I guess it's more unique when it because there are the multiple different apps, and for AVD, like AVD specifically, you've always wanted to use the desktop client, and so people switching from one to the other, I think typically would do the side by side. But John, you mentioned for iOS and Mac that is just an update, right? So so no concerns there. Anything else to look out for?
You're correct. It's just an update. So there should be no concerns about migration. Of course, we do release our upcoming versions in the beta channel. So if you are an admin today and you go to the remote desktop beta channel, you can test out what the Windows app will look like and that upgrade experience. So we always want to make sure that people have time to consume it and give us any feedback.
That's a great call out. I totally forgot about the beta channel. Yeah, that sounds like a great way right now to start that whole side by side before that full GA update comes in. So cool. So that's good. And Joydeep, for you, is there anything else that you're aware of on the web or Android side? And for web, how is that transition going to work from the existing either Windows 365 web client portal versus the AVD web client portal? How is that going to all transition?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, as you rightly pointed out, there is an AVD web client that we recently put out information on that we are going to discontinue it in favor of the Windows app web, right? And this is the AVD store web client that I'm talking about, to be very, very specific, right? The other web clients, whatever supports on-prem and other use cases apart from Windows Cloud Services, will continue till the time that we achieve parity. So similar to the Windows migration motion or parity and discontinuation motion and all that, which is a slightly more of a longer term process, web will also follow the pattern. However, since we have lesser web properties, the process will be much smoother. Actually,
Right.
it'll be smooth on Windows too. It'll just be long and protracted. Yeah.
And one one other question I have on the web is, um, I know recently Microsoft announced that we were starting to move all of our web URLs to the new, believe it was Microsoft.cloud domain or
Cloud.Microsoft.
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 Cloud.microsoft. Okay, cloud.microsoft. Do we have plans to do that as well, with our web
Yes.
client?
Yes, the word salad is coming. It is. So that's an unqualified yes. We will move to the new URL. The only question is whether we will be able to move on the day of GA or whether it will fast follow. And the answer to that really depends on a lot of the backend infrastructure moves that are happening across the company that are supporting us to make this move. But yeah, we will absolutely move and conform to the new URL guidelines.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Um, so yeah, I think we also got a question come in. So a question on X. I'm trying the preview. How do I file feedback?
Yeah, so I don't know which platform this is referring to, but on Windows, at least in the bottom left corner on the left nav of Windows app, there's a little feedback icon. So you can click on that and file feedback through the Feedback Hub, which is a Windows application, and we track and triage all the feedback that comes in there. And then for macOS and iOS, Sean, I know you have some feedback methods as well.
Yes, sorry, it took me a while to unmute there. But we do have feedback methods. If you are consuming the beta channel through TestFlight, that is a great place where you can take a screenshot and then add commentary on any feedback you have. And then we also have a link in the client that you can click on, and that is a tech community that our team moderates.
Perfect. And then do you know if this is the same on Android with a link to tech community or to
Yes,
Android?
when the Android client goes preview, it will follow the same pattern that John just mentioned.
Okay, perfect. So either, however, the client does the feedback, we're listening, just like we're listening
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, 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 and that's a big area of investment, really, the in-app feedback. And going forward, you will see more and more in-app support, so that people can take care of small issues right within the app, and of course, give us feedback. This is also true for web, by the way. Whatever was said about the feedback link, the feedback hub link, is also true about web.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. It feels like using, trying to leverage some of the in-app feedback mechanisms. I feel like it helps us because it gives us context of what the issue is as opposed to just a text entry. So that's how I kind of see of using in-app feedback. Are there any other benefits that we slash the users that file feedback get through receive through the in-app?
Well, it's a direct line into the product team. It goes directly to our triaging mechanism for bugs as well as feature requests. So between that and the tech community, uh, users have a direct line, if you will, into the product team. Now, given that we receive lots of requests and lots of bugs, we have to do the triage and prioritization. But know that if you do file feedback, it is going to be seen directly by the product team, usually within a week.
Yeah, and one of the other benefits, like in addition to direct line to the product team, is we get additional information. Like Christian said, you can put in screenshots, and if you file a bug for Windows through Feedback Hub, we get additional logs and diagnostics, so we have an easier time troubleshooting any issues that you might have through that application.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think that those are all awesome feedback mechanisms for all the client specific stuff or the user facing stuff. I do want to give a quick plug because we also care about product feedback too. So if you do have product feedback for Windows 365 as a service, you can also do that feedback at ak.ms/w365 feedback. So I want to do a quick plug while we're talking about feedback. Stole the mic. All right. Another question that we have from Maximilian on the tech community. How do I pin apps from the Windows app? Um, okay, yeah. How do I pin apps from the Windows app, which are published through the Windows app, to the start menu or taskbar? I guess similar to maybe what's available today with the current downloadable Microsoft Remote Desktop client.
Yeah, exactly. So that is a feature of Remote Desktop Client, the downloadable one. And that is something that we want to bring into Windows app. But today we don't support pinning remote apps from Windows app to the taskbar or the start menu. But keep an eye out for that one.
Sweet. So not yet, but
Not
working
yet.
on it.
Coming soon.
All right. Let's see any questions here. I think we answered because we also answered what happens to um the iOS and macOS apps, and then Hillary, you mentioned the Windows 365 app, how that's going to be the Windows app. Okay, so one question we have from LinkedIn: does the Windows app support Pen? I think this is
That's
also a per
interesting.
platform kind of question.
Yeah, it kind of is. It really depends on the platform. On Windows, we are making improvements to the pen experience for things like Surface Tablet and others. But I think this is probably more pertains to mobile clients like iOS and iPad OS. So John, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, we do see that using a pen in a remote Windows session on iPad's a popular scenario, and we do support it on our iOS and iPad OS client.
And I believe we support pen redirection as pen, not as touch on Android clients as well. I think that was an improvement that came to the experience last year sometime. So that should be in public preview on Windows app too.
Okay. Yeah, I know that Jody, I know that we've been talking a bit as a team on how we want to like handle peripherals and redirections. Is there like a brief summary on like because you mentioned earlier on about our viewpoint and how we thought about Windows app. Can you provide like a brief summary of how we also think about peripherals and
Yeah,
other like devices in regard to like Windows app and everywhere?
yeah. Look, the strategic need as well as the commitment is very clear. As soon as possible, we will get to light local experience, and that includes the behavior of peripherals that you join. Now, one thing to remember that there is the native platforms, the native clients, iOS, macOS, Windows, Android. These will probably lead the charge in terms of peripherals being fully supported. Web is more involved, as you know, but in terms of the commitment is clear. In fact, I can share with everybody here that this semester, as well as next semester, as well as the one after, if you look at the body of work, a large part of that is is on the segment of work that we call redirections, and a huge part of that is peripheral support. Christian, you should get Sandeep on the show to talk about that a little bit more. There is so much
Yeah,
exciting
we're doing
stuff.
so much. Yeah, we're doing so
Yeah,
much work there. I definitely do think we should get him and his team here for a future month because um, you know that is an area where we are investing. Like again, Windows app, we're trying to create a consistent experience across, right? Well, we can't do that unless we also support all the peripherals and all the external devices that you might be using. So yeah, I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna see if I can grab him and his team sometime. Sweet. I think this one's for Windows specifically. Does the Windows app work with Windows 11 and Windows 10?
It does, yeah. We support Windows app running on both of those OSs.
Okay, perfect. Okay, from this feedback from Violet, from Tech Community and also Microsoft MP. Thank you. mentioned, I just tried this. I have to say, I'm very glad that this is a native Windows app and not a progressive web app / PWA.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback, Violet. Appreciate it.
We are glad too.
Yeah.
I will say that um, we don't really close the door on any implementation mechanism for this release, for the goals of this release, and for the Windows app. It made perfect sense. PWAs are a good method, and we might look into that for other platforms, but not the native platforms we have today.
Yeah, that sounds great because I think it goes back to what you mentioned earlier that when we do have the native platforms, the native APIs, it makes it a little bit easier for us to light up, um, devices or platform features. Again, John, you mentioned earlier the sidecar stuff. Like, I don't know if that's. I'm sure there's some way to hack it with PWAs, but it's when we have access to the actual, uh, system APIs, platform APIs. It feels like things just are easier to implement and also stable. Let's see. From David on Tech Community, will Teams VDI 2.0 be supported on all platforms? Ooh, actually, I'm going to take this one. I know this one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so VDI 2.0, that's kind of the, we say 2.0, it's the new mechanism that Teams has released for optimization. So instead of the WebRTC and redirecting WebRTC calls for the calling and streaming from the VM to your client. This is instead using the Teams native technology that is consistent across whether it's Teams running on a regular full Windows machine or in a VDI environment. So that's what we mean by VDI 2.0. Now, will it be supported on all platforms? We're working with the Teams organization to have as much parity as possible. Very, very soon, that 2.0 is going to be GAing on Windows. And I say very, very soon to one up Joydeeps because this one is very, very soon, aka keep a look at Message Center and stuff. And we are looking the kind of the next platforms that we're really considering are just based off of usage, and that Teams is also monitoring based off usage. So kind of next in line are that we're evaluating our sort of Mac and web client, just because there's a lot more usage there. And if we have anything, and as we work with them, if there's anything official, if there's any previews to announce, we will do so, on our channels and also Teams channels. For right now, the only 2.0 platform is Windows. That should be GA very, very soon. Sweet. Another question. Where can I find a list of which Windows app features are supported on which platforms?
I think we just put something in, right? In the chat.
So we have some awesome documentation on Windows app, and one of those great documents is at this AKAMS link, the Windows app platforms. And there you can see a comparison of features that are supported on every platform for each of our services as well. So you can pivot between Windows 365, Azure Virtual Desktop, and DevBox, and then also pivot between platforms to find out which features are supported on your favorite platform for the service that you use. So this is a great document to go reference, and we'll continue to add to it as things change and as we can continue to improve the experience on Windows app across all the platforms.
One quick thing for the audience. The mission of this team is to make the size of that document shrink over time, right? As soon as we can do like full row updates saying all, that's when we know we're getting closer to the mission, to the goal of this team, right? But for now and for the foreseeable future, please keep referring to that document. We spend a lot of time making sure that that document is both accurate and up to date.
Joydeep, I was gonna say, I hope it's not getting smaller because we're going to take out features, but it's going to be smaller because there's less exceptions that a feature is really got across all platforms.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Scared me there, Jody. All right. Let's see here. Another question from the community. Are there any tutorials for end users on the Windows app?
Can I take that?
Sure.
This is something that we have thought about deeply when we were designing the Windows app. And we thought about it and we decided to do something about it while keeping in mind that the attention span of your average end user is small. So we have to provide them training quickly and when they need it. So for all these reasons, what we have done is, and this exists today in public preview, and we're making constant improvements to it. The first time that you actually log into the Windows app, there is a first run experience that does a little tutorial on how to use the Windows app. Uh, it is a simple step-by-step guide because we have tried to keep the end user functionality very, very simple in the Windows app. I would invite people to go through and try out the first run experience and then actually give us feedback on whether they need deeper materials. The first run experience, you can also run again after you have gone through it once, and we can get you some guidance on how to do that. It's very easy. So there is some. There's of course our learn.microsoft.com resources. If anything is needed beyond that, we're always listening.
Awesome.
Yeah, and a quick note on our resources too. We have it split also so you can pivot between users and admins. So if you're an end user and you just want to learn more about Windows app, you can look at the end user documentation there as well. And it's a little more user friendly than the admin documentation.
Perfect. Yeah, and then for folks, that's the ak.ms/Windows app. Sweet. Okay, next question on tech community from Victor. Does Windows app support an option to keep all virtual machines in windowed mode? Each time I refresh, I would connect to a machine and it loads into full screen.
That is a great question, Victor. Thank you. Yeah, so Windows app does retain the display settings you set per resource. So if you do want all of your resources or your devices to open in windowed mode, you would need to go in and set them individually for each. But once you close and reopen that session, it should retain the display settings that you chose for it. I love the feedback, though, of it sounds like you're really asking for kind of app-wide display settings. So setting a default mode for all of your sessions. And I love that feedback. So that's something that we'll take back and consider for future enhancements.
Sweet. And then yeah, so for using that feature, and also for just testing it out in general, ak.ms/Windows app get started. All right, let's see if we get a couple more questions in. It's been a really great discussion so far, and I don't know how 43 minutes have already passed. um, let's see here. Anything else? One question, I think this is for you, Hillary, is the Windows 365 switch feature came as part of the Windows 365 app. Um, is that with the Windows app and you switch over to that,
Mhm.
does that still support the switch or the? I think in the app it's pinned to task view. Are there any gotchas there? Or does that functionality still work?
Nope, no gotchas. It works seamlessly as a transition from Windows 365 app to Windows app. And it is, yeah, in the app, it's pinned to task view. That feature in Windows is called the task view, where you can create different desktops. And so it's a really awesome feature, especially for those that are connecting from laptops, where they can swipe between their local and their remote desktop. We are working on adding some more learning features for that as well, going back to talking about tutorials for end users. So we're working on adding some more information in the app about that. But if you're using that feature already and you're familiar with it, it'll be seamless when you move to Windows app.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I definitely use it all the time. And if there are users using it all the time, then that's really nice to know that even if the app switches, if your admin pushes the new app on you, like, it doesn't matter. I don't even care. I don't even open that thing anymore. I just get my task view.
Nice. Yeah, it's a well-loved feature.
All right. We have a question. This one, let's see, a little bit longer. When using the Windows app with multiple monitors, the order of the monitors keeps changing after reboot. So that means when a user specifies a subset of monitors, like 1 and 2 and not 3, after the reboot, the order in the Windows app is different. And so therefore the cloud PC is displayed on different monitors. Um, yeah. So basically the order of the monitors changes on reboot. So if they specified, 1 and 2, but
Okay.
not 3, it's every once in a while, it sounds like sometimes it'll switch up on them. So it's like the outside ones, that's like the consecutive ones.
Yeah, surprise
Have we
them
seen
on the
that
new
before?
monitor. I haven't, but I also only operate usually full screen on 2 monitors, and I think that's a pretty common use case. That's some great feedback and something that we'll look into. And I would love it if I didn't see the name on this question, but I'd love it if this person could submit a bug through Feedback Hub if possible, so we can get additional logs and diagnostics on that.
Yeah, that's a gnarly one.
Yeah.
So that'll be definitely good to know. So yeah, Ziv, if you can post that on tech community, or do the in-app feedback, that'll be the best way for us to diagnose and get those logs.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah, that is definitely a fun one.
Yeah, not a great one when you're working either. Have it pop up on new windows every time or new screens.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we want to look into that.
All right, let's see. So let's see. I think see if there's any more questions, but I kind of want to go just around the room, and just get a little tips and tricks for Windows app on your platform. Things that people should know. Maybe a feature that maybe folks uh, maybe weren't aware of that's there and is awesome, and you want them to try it out. Giving you an extra 5 minutes or 5 seconds to think about it. But then we can go around the room. Um, Hillary, we're gonna start with you. Any tips and tricks
Yeah,
for Windows?
for Windows app on Windows. Yeah. I mean, I mentioned this earlier in the call, and this is something, so sorry if I'm stealing this, John, that applies across platforms. But we have some great new features coming out soon in regard to how you find your resources. So one of the things that was new in Windows app already is that you can search. So you can use like contextual text search to find resources or apps in Windows app. But another great feature that's coming out is being able to filter by device type, or by workspace name, so you can really narrow down which device or app you're looking for. And this really applies for people who have a lot of devices and apps, right? Like if you just have one cloud PC, you don't really need filter or search. But for those that are contractors or work across or admins and have a lot of different devices displayed in their app, this is a really awesome feature to use to help you quickly find what you need to access.
Awesome. All right, John. Hopefully she didn't steal yours.
No, there's a lot of great things to call out. When we looked specifically at the Mac OS and the iOS and iPad OS clients, people are going to be really excited that cloud PC device actions are now available. Historically, you've been able to connect to cloud PCs, but you haven't had the full experience like you've had on Windows and web. So we're really excited to share that in the store soon. The biggest tip I would have is trying it out in preview. As I mentioned, the beta channels for remote desktop will even allow you to test what it will look like when you update and you still have your resources there, just in a new interface. And we have really focused on this app for those users that are also just creating direct PC connections, or maybe connecting to on-prem workspaces, we've really made sure that the interface provides them that same power usage functionality that they've had historically with remote desktop. So one feature that I'll just share that I really love is pin to menu. And in the last month or so, we've gotten a lot of feedback from users on what they want to see with pin to menu on macOS, because that's often a very simplified, accessible view to launch a resource. And so we've put in some elbow grease to make that view a great place where you can see everything and open everything very quickly. And we will look forward to more feedback as we start rolling out this update.
Awesome. Elbow grease. I for some reason I hadn't heard that before. I'm like, oh yeah, just putting in the work.
Yeah.
No, but I love it. Pin to menu. I don't use Mac personally, but I know how convenient a Windows taskbar is. So I can only imagine how convenient that is for Mac users. All right, Joydeep. What about you before we wrap up for the episode?
John actually took mine. I was going to talk about device actions too, but there is more to say about it. So device actions are great for restart, restore, rename, all those great things. But the one that I'm going to talk about is inspect connection or connection troubleshooting, right? For a long time, whenever an end user had trouble connecting, the only option they had was to contact IT support or their IT admins. Now, within the device card, within the device actions, you can actually inspect the connection and do like simple troubleshooting on your own, like maybe your Wi-Fi router is not working and things like that. But it is even more exciting because what we are going to deliver in the future through that button is a completely AI-driven self-troubleshooting set of functionality. So if folks have not used that before, start using it. It is very basic today. I will be honest. It is very basic today. You might even say it is barely helpful. But that is the starting point, and we are going to put in a lot more of functionality into that button click. This is something that Christian, when Sandeep comes on the show, you should have him elaborate on.
Yeah, that's definitely, man, great suggestions. I've actually used that inspect troubleshoot button. Like for some reason my cloud PC is not working. It checks for fundamental installed services on the cloud PC. Sometimes for some reason it gets corrupted or an inactive state, and it fixed it, and I was able to connect again. So yeah, you start with restart to see if that fixes it, and then you go to the inspect connection. So yes. Well, thank you everyone. It's been a great session. Everyone looking for more Windows app feedback and content. We do have the Windows app, Windows in the Cloud episode from last week, which you can check out online. And you can also, so that's ak.ms/Windows in the Cloud, and continue providing feedback. We will be back again next month with more amazing content. So stay tuned, and you can check that out. And save those dates at ak.ms/AMA/Windows 365. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're excited for a new year and also the very soon Windows App GA. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.